This should not be a big deal for me. They already want to not talk about it.
I felt like a coward. I felt like an imposter.
He should not be able to control me like that. Several of them have already gone through their own divorces after they mocked me.
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm good. I'm just getting back from a hunt last week. So I spent a week in Minnesota with some friends and just like I told you before we hit record, just trying to get back on top of it. I try to check out. I didn't always do this, but I try to check out when I'm on vacation or doing a hunt. So that can be a challenge, but I'm doing pretty good at it. Now it's just playing catch up.
Yeah, you were pretty quiet on our group text thread with me, you,
Yeah.
Connor, and Matt. So I was just like, but I
I
always
know
know.
there's so many texts going on and
Yeah,
everything else now. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, dude, I mean, well, first of all, let's give the audience just some information here. I'm sure some of them know, but some of them don't. But like, do you believe that in 2025, in April of 2000, it will be a decade that we've known each other?
I know, isn't that crazy? I was thinking about that because I knew we were going to have a conversation, and in my mind, I'm thinking, we've known each other for 4 or 5 years or so, a decade.
A
Time
decade.
goes so fast, and the fact that we've created the movements that we have, and they're still operational. In fact, not just operational, they're thriving. To me, it's amazing how many men's organizations and movements have popped up over the past 10 years. Because when you and I got into the game, there was a handful, and two of them were us, and that's
Yep.
it.
Yeah. I think
Wild.
like I was actually someone actually referred to me, you, and just a handful of others as the OGs
We are.
in this
I've
business.
I've heard people say that before, and I'm like, no, 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 I'm not. I'm not. And then you think about it, you're like, wait a second. I actually am. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be arrogant or egotistical about it, but it's true. Like
Yeah.
we really started this thing off, which is a cool position to be in, but it's also a testament to the fact that millions and millions of men want guidance, want support, want direction, want brotherhood, want accountability, want all the things that you and I are providing for our guys.
I agree. And it's been so rewarding. I am curious though, like how did when people say, "Hey man, what do you do?" Like what how do you answer that?
I usually there's the short answer where it's like I don't really want to talk about it, and then there's the answer where somebody's genuinely interested. Maybe I'm at an event or something they haven't heard of what I do. But if it's the short answer, like I'm at the airport and somebody's like, "What do you do?" The person sitting next to me, I usually will just say I run a men's leadership development organization. That's just my one line. And if they
Yeah.
ask further, then I'll get into it. Like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what? What is it that you guys are doing? That's somebody who's interested. If they're like, oh, that's cool, then that's really the extent of the conversation. But I remember when we started, people would say, what do you do for work? And I would say, oh, I have a men's development podcast. And at the time in 2015, people would always say, oh, that's cool. What's your real job?
Oh my
and that
God.
that was my real job because when I
Yeah.
started in 2015, I took this thing full time within 18 months. I had a financial planning practice and I sold that and went all in on Order a Man pretty quickly. So it was my full time job, but people didn't know that you could make a career out of starting something from a podcast in my spare bedroom in the house, you know? So it's pretty interesting to see how far things have come.
I still remember actually seeing the background of that spare bedroom in your
Yeah.
studio. Like I still
It,
remember that. Like with
isn't
with
it
the
weird?
with the long beard and everything.
The long beard, the steel
Yeah.
desk, the bookshelves that I had made, out of some old lumber that I found in our shop. And you just start where you can. And we've both done that and built some pretty incredible organizations off of not really knowing what to do, but just trying to make it work.
Yeah, and let's peel back the curtain on that a little bit. I remember I didn't even remember until you actually said what you just said, which is I remember because at the time I did have a quote unquote real job, like up
Yeah.
until like a handful of years ago. But they're like, I would tell people like, oh, I podcast. Like, oh, well, what do you do for real? Or like, what's your real job? What's your full-time job? I got that one a
Right.
lot. But for
Yeah.
you to go all in on this, 18 months, you were married. I think at the time you had three out of the four kids in
Three.
2015.
Yeah. Because my youngest is 8. So I would have had
Right.
three. And
So
my third, my daughter, she was 1 or 2 at the time.
yeah. And Trish was staying at home at that time, correct?
Yeah, yeah, she's been a stay-at-home mom since we started having kids.
Yeah. But yeah, I want to go back to that though. For you to be like, okay, I'm going to sell off this, my wealth advising practice, and I'm just going to go all in on this. And I think this day and age, like 10 years later, somebody would say that and be like, yeah, man, great, awesome, go do it, good luck. But 10 years ago, I think people would be like, can you really do that? Like, how much balls does
Yeah.
it take to do that? And I think it actually took a lot of balls back then to do that. But I'm curious, like, where did that courage and that bravery come for you? I mean, as far as like even like your wife staying at home and all that.
Well, the first thing I want to be clear on, just as we're having this conversation, I don't want to make it sound like her and I are married. We're not. So, and I
Right.
know that we're going to go into that.
Or
So I
yeah.
just want to put that out there because that's fair to both of us. And also the woman I'm dating, like we are not married and we haven't been married for years. But that being said, yeah, it was challenging, I think. I don't think it took the balls that people think it did. And part of the reason is because I had built my financial planning practice to a very successful place where I could actually sell an asset. So I had this this money, this lump sum come in that I could use to float expenses for a time as I was growing the business. But I walked away from a multi six figure business, so, or a six figure in revenue is what I mean,
Mhm.
every year that I walked away from, and in exchange sold it. But I had a lot of faith in what I was doing with the financial planning practice. I could see the trajectory of what we were doing with Order of Man, and I don't really want to discount the fact that it did take courage, because it wouldn't do it justice, and I think people would maybe think I'm being flippant about it. It was a hard decision to make, but in theory it was hard, but I just believed in myself enough that I could grow this to what I wanted to grow it to. But I didn't have that faith when I started the organization in March of 2015. I actually just started it as a little bit of a side project, not even a side hustle, which was the term back then. It was just a side project. I wasn't making any money. I didn't know how I was going to make money. I just enjoyed podcasting and talking with men that I was motivated and inspired by. So yeah, but turned it around pretty quickly. In I think 7 months is when we made our first dollar. I put together a 90-day course, and we had, I think, 10 subjects that we covered in that 90 days. And we did one each week for 12 weeks, and we had a couple of just kind of open weeks. And it was called the Iron Council. And I had 12 spots available, and I sold those 12 spots overnight. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, so you can actually really, I made like $1,000. Like, it made
Mhm.
nothing because it was $100, and realized, oh, you can actually make a business out of this. And so I learned how to market. I learned how to create courses, how to create membership. Membership model wasn't real popular then either. It was for other services, but not a service like we're talking about. So we created that, and it took off. There's been a lot of people come and go over the years, but it's nice to be able to start and then just try to stay out ahead of what everybody else is doing. So I don't want to I don't want to discount that it took courage, but I also don't want to overstate it and say, oh yeah, I had, the balls the size of bowling balls. I don't. I had a little bit of a different scenario than other people. And I realize that, and I'm aware of that. A guy that maybe is in a job where he's making 80, 90 grand a year, he's doing fairly well, trying to support a family of four, five, six people, somewhat dissatisfied in his job. Like, he's not going to walk away from that in a period of 6 months, especially now, because everything is so much more competitive in our space than it was 10 years ago. But there are things that we can do, and we can talk about that. But there are things that a guy can do if he's in that scenario, but it would work differently, I think, today than it did back then, if I'm being honest. And I do want to be honest. I think that's fair to the people who are listening.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I love the honesty about that because like I think the way that, you know, because I think if you look at this on the surface, right, it's like, man, three kids, he was married at the time, stay-at-home mom, like, man, that's got to take some gumption, to go do something like that. Because I remember like how dangerous that felt to I think a lot of people back then, especially like I'm even thinking of like my in-laws. Like I remember when I finally told my in-laws that I was leaving my job and they looked at me like that sounds horrific. Like how are you gonna, so I
Yeah.
am I want to segue into what you've seen over the past decade as far as like just being involved with just men's work, the needs that you've seen, the good things you've seen, some of the bad things you've seen as it relates to like guys self-sabotaging, that kind of thing. But overwhelmingly, what are some lessons that you've learned over the past decade doing this work?
I think the biggest thing is consistency, not only in the business, but in the way that you show up. And there's another thing that I learned over the past couple of years when I ended up going through my divorce is that you can know all of the right things to do and still fall short if you're not doing them. And this is my job. And even I found myself falling short. And I think I slipped into some complacency. I let my pride and ego and arrogance get the better of me. I also, frankly, let some of the stress that I was dealing with the rapid growth of our business get to me, which led me into, and I don't want to say led me into, that makes it sound too passive, but essentially I started drinking and really developed a, a, a pretty bad alcohol abuse situation. And so that was obviously a struggle for me, which ultimately ended up, breaking down the marriage. And that's a whole story in and of itself. But for me, I think the biggest lessons I've learned are consistency, number one. And then number two is not falling into complacency. And too many people do, especially just in general. A lot of guys, maybe they were good at some point, whether it's in high school and they're reliving their glory days of high school, or maybe they had some quick success out of high school and they started making a bunch of money, or even now, they're doing really well, but they're failing in the family department. And they're just letting this complacent mindset mentality creep in. And what ends up happening is, I wish this wasn't the case, and I don't think it has to be, but more often than not, it seems to me that the only way a guy's going to change his current behavior is when he hits rock bottom. And that's what happened to me. And that's why I'm in a significantly better place than I am or than I was 2 years ago, is because I did hit rock bottom. And my warning, I guess I would say for guys, is if you notice something's wrong, something's off, whether it's in your relationship or the way you're feeling about things or your mindset or your mentality, or you notice some red flags with regards to your finances, address it early and often. And guys don't do that. I think about what men do when they have some sort of medical ailment. Our natural instinct is just to think and say, oh, it'll heal. I'll be fine. It's not a big deal. And we just kind of try to toughen ourselves through it. And I think there is something to be said for being tough. But if we're not actually addressing the warning signs when it comes to medical, both you and me have dealt with serious medical issues that I think maybe we could have addressed a little earlier if we would have been paying more attention. So those are some lessons that have stuck for me that I'm in the process of learning now too, always.
What do you think is the main reason for guys, seeing warning signs, but just shoving them to the side, not addressing them?
I think a lot of it has to do with what I was saying about being tough. We are conditioned from a very early age to be tough, to man up, to, grow some balls, to do what you need to do to get the job done. I think generally in society, we're underappreciated, we're overutilized and underappreciated. I think that the things that are inherently good about what we do are sometimes villainized and uh, made to be meant as toxic or dangerous or destructive to our young men and to society in general. And so, even if it's subconscious, there's this underlying mandate to perform without complaining and to just sit down, keep your head down, nose to the grindstone, and just get to work, regardless of how you're feeling, what you're experiencing. And again, I want to be fair, there's validity to it. And I tell my boys, hey, you need to be tough. But that's not the end of the conversation. The rest of the conversation is, I know how you're feeling. I know what you're experiencing. Tell me what's going on. And there's a level of kindness and compassion and empathy that I have that I didn't think I had probably 2, 3, 4 years ago, where you can actually combine this drive for men to be tough with a level of empathy that teaches men how to be tough instead of just expects them to. So when you're having a hard time, and I hope it's okay. I'm sure you've shared some of this stuff, but I know you've had some medical stuff happen in the past several years. And I know you've been open about that, but it took a little while for you tell me some things that you were going through, probably, I don't want to guess for you or assume your motives, but probably because you thought maybe I don't want to hear about it, or nobody cares about it, or it's irrelevant, or I should be able to handle this. This should not be a big deal for me, or maybe a combination of all of those things. So I think that's why men don't open up, why we don't talk about it, and why we don't address it, because we just put our nose down, we go to work, and we get the job done. And that's noble, that's honorable. But if it comes at your expense to do that for a long period of time, it's actually just really dangerous.
Yeah, I think it comes with a balance, right? Because the funny thing is, and you know, the medical thing that you're talking about, you know, I had that just a horrific knee injury that just kind of like cascaded into a bunch of other problems, right? And but yeah, you know, the funny thing is, as good as friends you and I are, it actually was not on it was actually on my radar to not reach out to you, which I think is really
Right.
fascinating. And then I finally did. And I remember reaching out to you and I was just like, hey, how are you doing? Yeah, you know, are you in a place? Cause I am. I think I finally reached out and I was like, I'm at that point where I need to be around other leaders. Like I can't not be around other leaders because I need to know, you know, I need to have conversations with somebody else who's battling the same things that I am. Right. Which ended up you and I scheduling calls every other week to be on just to beat each other. And then we, you know, added in Connor, we added in Matt into that phone call as well. Come to find out, all of us are, you know, carrying. We're really good at something. We're also carrying something really really big, and we found that through us talking to each other. But that is one thing, Ryan. I gotta admit, man, it's like you and I. We shout this from the top of the towers. You know, it's like, hey, if you're in a bad season, ask for help. You know, if you
Mm-hmm.
need something, ask for it. You know, lean in. You know, be there for a brother, and also ask for help from a brother if you need to. Yet, you and I found ourselves in very similar situations where we didn't do that.
Yeah.
And it's if we were to reverse engineer this, like I'm pretty certain what I would be telling myself, but I'm curious, like what would you be telling yourself if you were to give yourself advice?
I have 1,500 podcasts that
Yeah.
telling me what I should have heard and I didn't do it. You know, it's like the mechanic that drives around the beater, or the guy that owns a landscape company and his yard looks like crap. He's pouring so heavily into his clients or into other projects that when he's done and it's time for some time for himself, he's beat, he's exhausted. He just doesn't take the time to do it himself. And so I think a lot of us fall into that category in that camp. But what I would tell myself is really, I think the first thing is to focus on your priorities, like recommit to your priorities, because I think I got lost in the movement. And I've heard it referred to as a noble obstacle. It's an obstacle to your own growth and development because it doesn't allow you this balanced, nuanced life to pursue other things outside of what's in front of you in the moment. But it's noble because it's a good thing, right? It's noble that you're trying to help and serve other men. It's noble that you're trying to advocate for men getting help. And yet it's an obstacle to your own growth. And that's the trap. That's the trap, is that it's both good and bad. It's a double-edged sword in a way. It's like if you do it, it's good because you're serving other people, but you're not serving yourself. If you're only serving yourself, then you're not having the growth and the development to serve other people. So for me, it'd be recommitment to my priorities and then learn how to not be so obsessive about the thing that's in front of you in the moment. Being present is important, but with my personality, I tend to get obsessed. So if I do something, I'm going to do it fully. Like I don't know what moderation is. As I've been dealing with the alcohol abuse over the past several years, you know, I've heard people say, "Oh, you know, can't you have a drink?" That's not in my vocabulary. I don't have a drink. I have all the drinks. So the answer is no, I cannot have a drink because then I want everything that's there. And that's my mentality and my personality. And so I've had to learn how to temper that. And I've even the things that are good and positive, like this movement, I've had to learn how to take a step back. That's what I was saying when we started this conversation. When I go on a hunt for a week, I can't. Like I just need to. It's for me. So I'm not on my phone texting people. I've got 300 emails I need to get through. Today I woke up and people are, hey, I need this and this and this because I've been out of pocket for a week. Like, I'll catch up. That's fine. That's not a big deal. But I needed that time to recharge. But that's not a mentality I've always had.
When did you start doing those types of things here, like more recently, or when maybe did that start at the lowest point?
Yeah, when my life blew up, I was like, oh
Yeah.
man, like this is not working. Like whatever I'm doing is not working. And part of it again is to go back to the alcohol abuse. And when I stopped drinking, it was amazing. Two things happened. A lot of things happened, but two in particular. I realized that I had another 4 to 5 hours every single day that I wasn't capitalizing on because at its lowest point, I was just about 24/7 drunk, hungover, or passed out. So when you're not drinking, I was amazed how much time I had. And I was done with work by like 11. All my emails were done, correspondence was taken care of, podcasts uploaded, social media stuff posted. Everything is done at 11. I'm like, I don't have anything else to do. How is this happening? And then I started doing projects around the house because I was bored, and it was projects that I'd been promising to do for like 2 years. I actually had the time to do it. And then my energy levels. And again, I'm not trying to sound arrogant when I say this, but part of the reason that I was able to get away with drinking so much alcohol for the period of time that I did was that I was pretty good drunk. And so to not be drunk put me on hyperdrive. And it was amazing what it opened up and what it unlocked that was there before. That's how I grew the movement and grew a financial planning practice. But I had just over time become, to my point earlier, become so complacent that, and it was so slow and subtle that I didn't see how far I had slipped. I still thought I was doing pretty good until it all came crashing down and realized, oh no, I'm not doing good. In fact, I'm doing really, really horribly.
And when did that happen? Like, so what was the moment where you're like, oh crap?
It was it was a Sunday, and my ex-wife came to me. We were in the bedroom and she said something. I don't remember what she said. And I remember stopping and saying, wait, are you saying you want to leave me? And she said, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like, whoa, I think
Wow.
part of the reason I don't remember is, again, it was a Sunday morning. I had already been drinking. So part of the reason I probably don't remember is because I was already drunk,
Wow.
and it sobered me right up.
I'm sure it did.
And the next day, well, I stopped drinking that day. That was my last drink. And then the next day, or maybe it was a couple days later, I found a AA meeting in town, and I went to that maybe 1 or 2 days later. And I remember sitting in that meeting being like, how did I end up here? Like, how is this my life right now? And then I signed up for some therapy through a company called BetterHelp and started working with a therapist 1 or 2 days later. So I took it very seriously, but my marriage was at risk. My family is at risk. And I still am a huge advocate for the nuclear family, for the power of marriage. Like, that's still something that's really valuable to me. I don't have that in my life, but it's still something that I value in society in general, you know? So yeah, I had to hit rock bottom, and that sucks. But at the same time, I'm a little grateful for it because now I would give this message to anybody who's listening who maybe is in the middle of a separation or a breakdown in a relationship or even early stages of a divorce. I promise you it'll get better, but you have to do the right things. And if you don't do the right things now, it'll probably still improve because we evolve and we're resilient, but it'll happen a lot slower, and it won't be nearly as effective as it would be if you were doing the right things. And the right things to do, and in my mind, I mean, we can get into the nitty gritty, but the right things to do are, as if it, and this is uh, a practice in being conscious, is that you can almost in a way extract yourself from yourself in a way and look at you objectively and say, what would the man that I want to be do in this situation? The worst situation you could possibly be in, what would the guy want to be do? And whatever the answer to that question is, that's what you should do.
Do you have an example of this by chance? I mean, I love
Yeah.
this
Oh,
example,
yeah.
but yeah, give me an example. It'd be great.
Well, I will give you an example just in the past, week or so. Anybody who's gone through a divorce knows this. The way that you feel about your ex is highs and lows. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's neutral, and sometimes it's really, there's a lot of animosity and contention. And what too many men do in those moments of frustration and contention is they allow it to dictate their behavior. And then they do or say something dumb to their ex, and they create problems with their ex. They create problems with their parental rights, and they just sabotage themselves. When instead, maybe your ex says something and man, she knows how to jab at you just like you know to jab at her because you know each other. You're intimate with each other, right? So for me, instead of reacting to something that either I'm thinking or something that maybe she does that I don't like or don't appreciate or whatever it might be, is well, how would the man I want to be respond in this scenario? And the answer is always better than I currently am responding. Like, be more mature. Don't let this get to you. This feeling that you have will pass. You don't need to love her, but you can still be relatively respectful. Think about your behavior and how it's going to impact your kids or your time with your kids, and react and respond more maturely and positively. That's something I do all the time. And if I was I say this often, if I was dropped into the same scenario down the road in the same scenario I am right now, I would handle myself the exact same way that I did this time. And although I have some real regrets around the way that the relationship went down, I can still hold my head up high knowing that at that point, from that point forward, handled it like the man I want to be would handle it.
I think that's one of the hardest things for any person to do is remove themselves from whatever experience that they're feeling at that moment. Like maybe it's betrayal, maybe you feel like you're being attacked, maybe your feelings are hurt, maybe you're angry or whatever else it is. How have you found a way to do that really effectively and especially in the moment where, the emotions taking over, like and it's hard to think logically. How have you been able to do that?
Well, I think a lot of men is they'll try to stuff the emotion down if they're trying to quote unquote be better. So maybe they're angry about something, maybe their wife said something. This doesn't just apply in a divorce situation, but maybe their wife said something that gets at them, or they got passed over for the promotion. What I would suggest to somebody is instead of trying to stuff down the emotion, like, oh, I shouldn't be angry or I'm not going to be this way, is actually do the opposite. Is your anger justified? And if you got passed over for a promotion, being upset about it is justified. Can you still hear me, Larry?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yep.
Okay, I just didn't know because you're
No, I was
so.
just adjusting the AirPods.
Oh, got it. So, but being upset about being passed over for the promotion is a justifiable feeling. And if you try to stuff that down because you want to be nice or play nice or be kind or be looked at in a certain way, you're not really honoring the way you feel. And I think it's important that you do. Now, the way you feel and the way you respond are two different things.
Right.
So if you're upset that you got passed over for the promotion, from a real practical approach, what I would say is don't do anything until you've had time to actually evaluate how and why you're feeling that way. And maybe that's an hour for something minor. Maybe your wife just makes a little snippy comment and, it bugged you and it got under your skin. Well, that's not going to take you 2 days to get over. If it does, that's an issue. But if you need an hour and you're like, hey, you know what? Let's just talk later. That's understandable. And then you come back to the table and you're like, hey, babe, listen, I was upset earlier because you said this thing and it made me feel this way. And I know you probably didn't mean it, or maybe you're having a bad day. I don't really know what's going on, but I don't appreciate that. But where were you coming from? Like, see how much, like, you were upset. That's justifiable, but you handled it in such a different way. And now she's going to say, you know what? Yeah, I was I was at home and the baby grabbed poop out of his diaper and smeared it all over the walls. And so I was in the process of cleaning that up. And then you asked me if I could make dinner tonight, and I'm cleaning up the kid's shit. Like, anybody's going to be pissed off in that scenario. So now you have a better understanding. You're like, oh, okay, babe, I'm sorry. Yeah, now it's, you see what I'm saying? You get different context and it just makes you not only a better man, but it just puts everybody in a better situation. Now you have a better relationship with that person. So I would say just wait to react. If it's something big, take some time, take a day, take a week, like really process and evaluate it. If you got passed over for the promotion, the first thing you're going to do is be pissed off at your boss or your supervisor. But over 2 or 3 days, I think what you'll probably realize is, oh, if I was in his shoes, I would have passed me over for the promotion too. And now the appropriate response is, what should I have done? And what will I do so that when the next opportunity presents itself, I will be primed and poised to take advantage of that opportunity? Time is just, and reflection is just a great way to come up with a more mature, controllable answer for yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that. I love that, creating that space between just even giving yourself some grace, like, hey, let me take an hour to think about this, right? I'm not going to react or respond right now. Just let me absorb this, let me process this, create some space between it. I like that a lot.
Well,
Have you
Larry, can I just say one thing
yeah,
on that? Like, I'm such a reactive, impatient person that whenever somebody does or says something that I feel like it needs to be addressed now, whether I feel slighted or whether it's just I don't feel slighted, but there's a problem in front of me that needs to be addressed, I am like on it. And in some cases, it serves me really well because I solve problems fast and I innovate quickly and I adjust quickly as well. But what I've realized in trying to be a little bit more patient and a little bit more mature is that I haven't missed opportunities just because I've waited to respond for a couple hours or a couple of days,
hmm
as long as I communicate it. So if again you're arguing with your wife and it's not going well, you don't just hang up the phone on her and ghost her for the afternoon, because that's not going to make the situation better, and it certainly isn't fair to her, the person you love. Instead, what you say is, "Hey, you know what? I feel myself getting upset right now. I think you're upset. I don't want to make this worse. I want this to get better, but I need a couple of hours just to kind of process this and think about what we're talking about. So I'm not going to finish this conversation, but I'm going to come back to it. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not bailing. We're coming back to the conversation, but I'm coming back with a more level head." Any person that you've decided to partner with in life should be respectful of that. But you actually have to come back to the table. That's a thing a lot of guys are missing, especially avoidant personalities, is they might actually say that, but then never come back to the table. So the key is always just making sure that if you need the space that you communicate. Let's say there's a really good investment opportunity that's available and somebody comes and says, "Hey, look, we've got this investment opportunity. We've got to make a decision quick." You could do it right away. Maybe your instinct is telling you to do it right away. Maybe your gut's telling you it's going to be a good thing. But if you just tell the guy, "Hey, listen, I want to think on this. I want to review my finances. I want to review what you guys are doing. Can you give me 48 hours?" They're going to give you 48 hours. Just communicate, open your mouth, communicate, share, and people will give you grace as you process what needs to be processed.
yeah, that makes total sense. I think just being very communicative, when it comes to these relationships and when it comes to expectations and what we're gonna do, what our role in this is. And you mentioned something in there about avoidant behavior, which I see a lot of guys in our community who are in relationships like that, whether it's them or whether it's their spouses. I think that's definitely a dangerous game to play. Was there in your relationship, was any of that taking place on your end or hers?
I'm not going to talk about her. I've made that decision that I'm not going to do that, just out of respect towards her and just my own healing and journey and trying to
Sure.
be a good person. But I am an anxious attachment style. And sometimes that conflicted with her personality. And so that made it tough. I think where I could have done better, and that's what I'll speak on, what I could have done better is two things. Been a little bit more understanding of her personality, that it wasn't the same as mine, and affording her a little bit more grace in the way that she processed it. And I think the most important thing for me was I could have created a safer environment where she felt comfortable enough to open up to the degree that she was comfortable with. And I think a lot of men run into that issue where we'll complain and we'll gripe and we'll moan that, oh, she's not talking to me, she's not telling me what's wrong, like she's hiding this and she's not doing this and she's not doing that. And a lot of the times, all too often, we fail to look at the environment that we created. Let's say that you get home from work and she has a long day and you could tell something's bothering her. And you're like, hey, babe, what's going on? She's like, I'm fine. Well, you know, that's bullshit, right?
Hmm.
That is a universal excuse for I'm not fine. But why wouldn't she say she's not fine? Maybe because the times before where she actually explained that she was having a hard day because the kids were being little turds, you dismissed and mocked her about it. Or maybe she was talking about how the day at the office went and her boss was a dick to her and she's struggling with a coworker. And instead of just listening to her and supporting her, you're like, well, you're an idiot. You should have just done X, Y, and Z. Why don't you just do that next time? And your problem would be solved. It's your fault that she's not opening up. And it was my fault. So especially with an avoidant personality, they already want to not talk about it. And then you add that fuel onto the fire by mocking them or making them feel stupid or making them feel unimportant or invalidating the way they're feeling about things. That's like putting the avoidant personality on hyperdrive. And
Oh
you
yeah.
can't blame her for avoiding you when there's things that you were doing that you would have run from yourself.
Very true. Very true. You mentioned a term in there. You said it was anxious attachment.
Anxious. Yeah. So
Yeah. What is that?
generally, are you familiar? Okay. So generally, there's three attachment styles. So there's the avoidant attachment. So anytime this is like the fight, flight, or freeze type responses. So with an anxious personality, or excuse me, an avoidant personality, anytime there's potential conflict or risk associated with something, it's the flight, right? Like, ugh, that's scary. It's a lot of it's subconscious. A lot of it is inherent within our personality, and a lot of us, for us, it was indoctrinated into us as we grew up with our parents. So a lot of the times the way your parents behave is going to very much mirror the way that you behave. So if, for example, you have a hard time communicating and expressing love to your children, it might be because your parents had a hard time communicating and expressing love to you. Like, have you ever noticed that? Like, my son my oldest son says, I love you to me all the time. And he's 16 years old. He'll say it in front of his buddies. He'll say, I love you, dad. On the phone, like we're on the phone, his buddies or his girlfriend's in the car. He's like, love you, dad. And when we leave, he gives me a hug, like an actual two arm, like he puts both arms around me. It's not like the side pat or the
It's
bro
not the
pat.
ass out
Like,
hug.
right, yeah, like, yeah. No, it's like a real actual hug, right? And that's how I grew up. My mom would do the same thing. So it was never weird or awkward for me to feel that. And it's not weird or awkward for me to express that to him, which makes sense as to why it's not weird or awkward for him to express the same way. So the avoidant will run away from conflict. An anxious attachment so an avoidant controls by running away. An anxious controls, they're both control tactics, but an anxious controls by like bull rushing, fighting. So if you and your wife are getting into a debate or an argument or you're upset, you want to fix it right now because you don't want there to be any conflict in the house. You don't want there to be any problems. And you will actually make more problems to fix the one that's currently facing you. That's what an anxious will do. Or another sign of an anxious will be, let's say your wife calls you and you don't answer the phone because you're working, you're at a meeting, and she says, "Hey, hon, we need to talk tonight. So I'll see you at home." An avoidance like, I don't want anything. I'm going to be late. I don't want anything to do with that. An anxious is going to be like,
Right
and
now.
then jump right now, jump to the worst. She's leaving me. She's divorcing me. The house burned down. All the kids got kidnapped this afternoon. Like you're going to run to every bad scenario there is, and you're going to try to control it because you're not comfortable with being out of control.
Yeah.
And then you take the middle ground, which is a secure attachment. So a secure attachment is somebody who's confident, somebody who is capable, somebody who knows how to communicate well, somebody who's not arrogant, where they can actually take critique and criticism without getting all hot and bothered or running away from it. And that's what we should all be striving towards, is that when your wife calls you in the meeting and says, "Hey, we need to talk," it's, "Hey, babe, that's fine. I'm in a meeting right now. Just checking, everything okay?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, everything's fine." You're like, "Cool, we'll talk tonight." And then you can go on about your day as if nothing's wrong. Right. Or somebody says something to you and it gets under your skin a little bit. You're like, "You know what? I'm not going to let that ruin my day. Like, that person's probably going through an issue right now." And so you don't need to run away from it. You don't need to fight it. You're just like, "Yeah, that guy's just being a jerk," or maybe they're having a bad day. Even your wife, like, she says something snippy to you and it's like, your immediate reaction is, "Oh, she doesn't love me," or "I hate her." It's, "I wonder what's going on." Like, she must be having a bad day. Something must be going wrong right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what we should be working towards, is being secure as opposed to anxious or avoidant.
Do you think the ancient, because I can relate to that big time. In fact,
Yeah.
the guy, like my, so my team, so I think, my, one of my guys, Jason McKenzie, right?
Yeah. Right. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. So like Jason and I, we've been working together at Dad Edge since 2016. And we always bust each other's chops as, men do. And he's always like, so like if he texts me and he's like, "Hey man, we need to talk later today." And my initial, like, that is where my head goes. Something's
Of
on
course.
fire, something's wrong. Like, and I'll be like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, well, we'll talk about it in the meeting tomorrow." I was like, "Well, what's it about?" And I'll be like, and
Yeah.
he knows me really well. And so like we'll get on a call the next day in our meeting and he'll be like, "Dude, so like what was going through your head when I said we need to talk?" I was like, honestly, I was like, "You're quitting. I pissed you off. You're quitting our working relationship and you don't want to be friends with me anymore." And he
Yeah.
just freaking died, man. And he's just like, "Dude, I believe every freaking word you said because I know that that's exactly." I was like, "Yeah, that's where my head goes." I was like, "I'm trying
Yeah.
to train myself out of that one." I was like, but literally that's where my head goes all the time. And like, so my team jokes with me now and they'll be like, "Hey, we need to talk about something, but don't worry, we're still friends. I'm still going to work here and it's not that big of a deal." But just so so they manage it that way.
I
But
mean, that's a great thing they're doing. And look,
yeah,
here a couple of things, if I can, that have helped me.
yeah, that's what I want to get to.
So, yeah. So one thing that's helped me is just believing people.
Yeah.
That's a big one. If for example, your wife is like, you're like, "Hey, hon, everything okay?" And you could tell something's wrong. And she's like, "No, everything's fine." Say, "Okay." It's not your job to fix her problems.
Right.
So it might just be, okay. Like, if she says everything's fine, then just believe her. And you might say, "Hey, that okay, good. I just checking. It seems like you're a little off. If you do need to talk about anything, I'm available." And then just go about your day the same way. You should be immovable. I think for me, what I realized is that if my mood is based off of the way somebody else is showing up or performing, then I'm too vested in somebody else's perception of me or control over my life. So if one of my guys is having a bad day and he decides to berate me and it ruins my day, I put way too much emphasis on what that guy thinks. He should not be able to control me like that.
Hmm.
I should be just as happy or just as content or just as productive this afternoon if I got into an argument and debate with my wife as if I didn't. And so if you're moved that easily, that's a good indicator that you're letting other people's emotions control your own. So for me, it's just believing that people, what they say is right, and behave as if that's the case. And then learning to surround yourself with the right people who are actually honest, because some people will lie, but find people who are honest, even if it hurts a little bit. Like, I'd rather be slightly offended knowing that a person's telling me the truth than be lied to spare my feelings. Because then I don't know what to believe. So if so, my girlfriend, she's very honest to the point where sometimes, like, "Whoa, that one hurt," but you're not wrong. So she's very, and I actually really appreciate that about her. But if she wasn't honest and she just tried to like pacify everything all the time, When I knew something was wrong and I said, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "Nothing," I wouldn't believe her. But now I say, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "No, nothing. I'm good." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, she probably just is good." Because if she wasn't, she would actually
She would
tell
tell
me.
you. Yeah.
And it's the same reason why I don't know if you agree with me on this, but guys like to debate this one with me, and I stand by what I believe on this. When a woman comes to you and she says, "Hey, do these jeans or this dress look good on me?" and it doesn't look good on her, you should tell her that you don't like that dress.
I agree with that.
A lot of guys don't. They're
I
like, "No, no,
do.
that's a trip. That's a trick. That's a trap." I'm like, look, the way you say it's important. You
The
don't want to say, "Oh
way.
no, your ass looks huge in that." But you might say, "Hey, you know what? I like the red
Yeah.
one a little better. It's a little more flattering on you."
Yeah.
Or I like the jeans that you wore last night. The way they sit on your hips makes your hips and your figure look perfect.
Perfect. Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean? So you're not saying it like a jerk, but she knows that she can trust you on the little things, so she's more apt to trust you on the big things.
yeah. Because I don't think that, and I find what you said funny, not because you said it, but because I think a lot, I know why guys debate you on that one. But, it's this literally just happened like probably 3 to 4 weeks ago. Jessica had this new like outfit on and she's like, "What do you think?" And normally I'm like, "Damn, woman." Right. I'm like, but I looked at her, I was like, "It's not my favorite." She's like, she kind of like looked at me. She's like, "Seriously?" I was like, "Yeah, seriously. It's not my favorite." She's like, "Well, why?" I was like, "The shirt doesn't fit you like other shirts that I've seen you wear, and the jeans are a little bit baggy in the back." I was like, "I
Yeah.
like you with tighter jeans on. That's just my preference." And she's like, "I really appreciate that honesty." She's like, "I really, really do." She's like, I was on the fence with this and I knew your opinion. If you told me it wasn't good, then I knew to return it. And if it was, then it was just me being very, self-critical." And she's like, "But I knew you'd be honest." And I do agree with that honesty. You got to be honest because it's for that very reason. If I'm giving you lip service on this, like what else do you think I'm giving you lip service on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other benefit of that is the next time she wears the outfit where she looks stunning and you
Yeah.
say it, she's like, "Oh, he actually means it.
Yes.
He's not just paying me lip service. He actually really thinks I look smoking hot right now." And
Yep.
that's going to feel really good to her.
Yeah. And she does that with me as well. Like I'll be like, "Hey, what do you think of such and such?" And if she's like, I don't really know about that. Like I actually get very intrigued because I'm like, she wouldn't say anything otherwise. And usually she'll pick something out that I'm like, "Oh crap, I didn't think of that." But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad she said that, but I do like, I think that honesty is absolutely critical, especially for the little things. Yeah. So I am on your side of the camp with that one. You've got to be honest. I don't think it's a trap. In fact, I think it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that leads into another way when it comes to these avoidant styles, these attachment, these anxious and avoidant styles, is encourage the way that you want people to treat you. And so it's never really criticism as much as it is praise or just a simple request. So if Jason says something and you're thinking it's the end of the world, the best thing that you can say to Jason is, "Hey, Jason, for me, when you send me that text like that, it's difficult for me to know what we're dealing with here, and it creates some anxiety for me, and it's hard for me to focus on work for the afternoon. So in the future, it would be helpful if you could give me a small little snippet of what it is that we need to discuss." So Jason might say in the future, "Hey, Larry, I'd like to talk with you this afternoon. We have to make some changes with some of our team leaders in our group."
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Not the end of the world, not a big deal. We'll talk about it on our weekly call tomorrow. I got it. Right.
Yeah.
And I think what I've realized is that people, they actually want to please you. Like most people want to please you. And so if you communicate the way that you appreciate being communicated with, they're happy to do it because it makes the entire relationship better. And then on top of that, when somebody communicates in an effective way, then your answer is simply, "Hey, you know what? Thank you for just giving me a little preview of what it was about. That helps me be able to process that a little better so that we can have a good productive call tomorrow." So you're just rewarding good behavior.
I agree. And I think if you're communicating what it is that you need or expect, or just being very, very clear, like I think it's a lot better than a response of like, what's going on, man? Like, what the hell? Right. And the person's like, what's going on here? Like, for the love of God. Right.
Yeah, because it's not
Um,
on their radar. They're not thinking that.
have you learned about the, so, because I think you and I have both had, it was it Adam Lane, I
Oh,
think
Smith.
Smith. Yeah. He's been
Yeah,
on Older Man, right?
he talks about this.
He does. And I was, you had him as a guest, and so did I. I was fascinated by it. I was like, I have never known anything about this, but it sounds like you've done quite a bit of work on this.
The more that you're aware of it, your own personality, the more that you can recognize it when it's happening and learn to temper and control it. Because I have to. When I get a text like that, I have to force myself, hey, it's not the end of the world. And even if it is, I can deal with it. I'm confident in being able to deal with it. And the other side too is this is really important. Just live a good life. You'll have less to worry about. Like if there's things that you're doing that you need to hide or not let people know or lie about, that's naturally just going to give you more anxiety because you're always worried if somebody's going to catch you or whatever it might be. So just live the life that you know you should be living, and that will help alleviate a lot of that stress as well.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice. Um, do you mind if we segue into one other topic that I'm just really curious to hear from you on?
Yeah, I mean anything. I'm an open book, so whatever you want
I
to talk about.
I know you are. So, um, the interesting thing about knowing you as long as I have and being good friends with you and also seeing other people obviously in the same space that we're in, I remember when when you told me about your situation and about how you were going to go through a divorce and the public had not known that yet. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, oh my gosh, like this could be disastrous for Ryan, right? Because this is kind of his wheelhouse and his house just blew up. And here's the interesting thing. I am seeing that, and so are you, with a lot of other people where relationships are blowing up and in similar spaces as you and I, and you're like, wow. But I don't think anybody's immune to this at all. No matter if you
No.
do this work or not, you are not immune to this. But I want to go back to that time where like I remember when you went full on public with this and it was an Instagram post. And I had known for months about it. And I remember, seeing this side of you. And I remember, getting to know you as well as I have over the past decade. Like, I feel like, to be honest, Ryan, I've gotten to know this other really amazing side to you, like, amazing side to you, like this very humble, like, very genuine, very clear. It's just like, here I am, everything, all the good, all the not so good. And I think it's made our friendship stronger. And I think it's also made the brand Order of Man better. I also think the story I'm telling myself is probably more guys come to the Iron Council because they're like, dude, like that guy's so honest. And like, look at this, like, look at the stuff he's going through and he's still doing it. Like, and I love the strength. But for you, like, that had to have been one of the hardest things in this whole experience. And if you're willing to talk about that, like the things that scared you about it, but also like, I think there's been a ton of good that's come out of it. And I want you to talk about that
Oh
too.
yeah. Well, I'll start with the good. I mean, the thing I didn't realize, well, it'll all be kind of together, the good and the bad. When I came out with this news, and the reason I wasn't so forthright with everybody is because I was still working on my marriage. Like, I'm not going to come out and say I'm getting a divorce if I'm busting my butt trying to save the marriage. Like, that would be a silly thing to do. Right. And that's what I was trying to do. But once I realized, hey, this is happening, like, I felt like I had to be honest about it. And I hadn't, frankly, been honest about the way that I was showing up. So I had to. But I thought people would just leave in droves. And don't get me wrong, we had people leave and people call me every name in the book and people say things like it was rough there for a little while. But I also know people are fickle and they'll be on to the next thing tomorrow anyway. So we'll just let this blow over. And that's not to discount the way I was showing up, but I knew that would happen. But the one thing I was surprised about more than anything is how many people came out of the woodworks that I had never heard from, never communicated with, never messaged or anything like that, who had said, man, thank you so much for sharing. I'm dealing with alcohol abuse, or thank you so much for sharing. My wife told me last week she wants a divorce. And I think what ended up happening is we went back to the roots of Order of Man. And I think I lost my way. I think I let it get to me a little bit. Like my ego certainly kind of blew up. My head got pretty big. Um, I thought I was like, I thought I was way better than I was. And it started to become more of the Ryan show versus Order of Man. And then when I went through that, I mean, the reason that we started this was not for me to put myself out ahead of anybody else. It was to say, hey, I don't have all this figured out. I've got some things figured out. You probably got some things figured. This person's probably, let's all like combine forces and figure it out together. And that's why I started Order of Man. And I feel like that's kind of the direction we've been moving now because of these lessons, these painful, hard lessons in humility. But to answer your question, the hardest thing was knowing that people were going to criticize and people were going to say things. And for a moment there, I thought the same thing. Like my business is going to go under and I'm going to have to figure something else out. I have no idea. I even for a really brief moment considered stepping away from Order of Man, selling the business, just getting out of it altogether. And I had a lot of people tell me that's exactly what I should do. But I don't know why I realized this or why I thought the way that I did. But I always believed, even in the darkest moments, that this will actually make this movement better. And I wouldn't wish it upon anybody, and I certainly wouldn't wish it upon myself, but it's made this better because of the way that I think I've handled it. And I've
What a
been
great.
transparent, I've been honest, and I've been a lot more humble and even compassionate where I haven't really had that side of me in my life before. And I think I needed to get kicked in the balls in order to develop it or to uncover it. Um, So yeah, I mean, I took my lumps, man. We lost a lot of people. There was things that were said about me, articles and news headlines and things about some accurate, some completely blown out friends throwing me under the bus, friends, quote unquote friends throwing me under the mentors, people that were mentors of mine throwing me under the bus. It was really painful, but also I think what's come out of it is that I'm a better person personally in my own life. I'm a much better father, a much better partner to my girlfriend than I was in the past. And I think I hope that I'm a better leader to the guys who are dealing with some of the same issues that I was a couple of years ago.
I've seen that in you for sure. I've seen this genuine side of you that, quite frankly, I remember it when we first got started. And to be honest, Ryan, I think this has happened to both of us. We've both over the past decade have gone through some lumps and have gone through some serious slices of humble pie, and we've also had tremendous success. And but it's really fascinating is I just had the Dad Edge Summit, a month ago, and I stood up in front of all those guys because I had horrible year and I didn't show up, and I was hiding and I was depressed and I had all kinds of shit in my head, and things were not good with my family. I didn't have a great connection with my kids, and I was like I was hiding it. And as soon as I started talking more about like how what a freaking horrible dark place I was in, and I was definitely in a season of depression, and I felt like a coward. I felt like an imposter. As soon as I stood up on stage and I talked about that and been sharing it in the alliance, it's amazing to me like how many more people will actually rally around you versus kick you in the balls on the way out. I mean, there were some
Yeah.
kicks in the balls, right? But they were I was pleasantly surprised by how many people gathered around in support versus the other way. And I think you kind of experienced you had some people like that were definitely taking jabs, right? But you also had a lot of people that were probably surprising you, like you said, that
Oh
gathered
yeah.
around you for support.
Yeah. I mean, I really did. And it's pretty, I think it's a testament to what you've created too, when you have those kind of people rally behind you and support you and uplift you. But it is one thing I was thinking too, though, is I don't know if the way that I'm approaching the movement now will ever allow us to be one of these mainstream people
So like, what do you
because
mean by that? Yeah.
well, I mean, like take a Jordan Peterson, for example, and I don't know if he was transparent necessarily about his own medical struggles with his mental health, but people expect Jordan Peterson to be at the top of his game at all times. And the way that he presents, and this is not a knock on Jordan at all, but the way that he presents himself is the authoritative figure. A guy like Andrew Huberman presents as the authoritative figure. The guy like Jocko Willink, the authority, right? These are all more authoritative type figures. Even Joe Rogan, the biggest podcast on the planet, one of the most well-known and recognized people in the world, frankly. They're acknowledged as the authority in whatever space that they're in. But these guys don't talk about their own problems. Have you noticed that?
I have.
They
I
don't
have.
talk about their problems. They talk about what other people should do, and they're coming from a place of authority. And I don't think they're wrong, and I actually don't think it's wrong. It's just a different approach. So I don't, even like an Andrew Tate, who I don't agree with hardly on anything, doesn't talk about his own shortcomings. It's all authoritative. Like, I'm the expert, I'm the person, unplugged from the matrix, listen to me because I have it all figured out. So we may never hit mainstream with the way that we've decided to do it. But I'll tell you what, man, the people that I have relationships with in the Iron Council, those are like my brothers. I
Yep.
just got back from this hunt. There was 9 of us there. I think 4 of them are friends that I found and developed through the Iron Council. These are guys I'd go to battle with. And so, yeah, we might not hit those mainstream numbers that other people do, but the relationships I have with people can go as deep and are as deep as I want them to be. So I'm willing to, if that's the trade-off, I'm willing to make that trade-off.
I think you and I are in the same camp with that, that I would rather have the quality over the
Mm-hmm.
quantity all day long.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, I'd rather have both. Don't get me wrong. Cause I
right.
think, because here's how I look at it. If we can get to that mainstream level, then we're going to help millions and millions of more men. So I want that. I just don't know I don't know if that happens, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm just going to
Same.
work my tail off and try to be as smart about it as possible and strategic and help as many people along the way that we can.
I agree. I mean, that's exactly my vision for this as well. And I think what's really fascinating about this is that you and I think, are both aligned in this is a learning platform. And guess what? The guy behind the mic is learning at the same rate that you are, right?
Yeah.
We might know a thing more here and there because the length of time and the amount of conversations we've had. But man, like your oldest is 16, my oldest is 18. Next year, that's going to be your first year raising a 17-year-old. And next year will be my first year raising a 19-year-old. And it's
Yeah,
every
exactly.
day is noon. But well,
One
dude,
thing that's interesting that people have said as a critique is, because I'm not in a relationship, I can't talk about relationships, or because I'm this, I'm disqualified. And to me, I don't feel like that. I actually feel more qualified. First of all, not the people who say I can't talk about relationships because I'm not in a relationship don't have a marriage that lasted 18 years. So when you get to 18 years, then we can talk because I learned a lot of things in those 18 years.
oh yeah,
I didn't always do best, obviously, but I learned a lot in that time frame. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as long as you're being honest, you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Your perspective is crucial. The way that you view the world, the lens in which you see it, the experiences that you've had, highs and lows, victories and failures, setbacks, defeats, everything. If you're honest about it, you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. So when I talk about relationships, for example, I don't say I have it all figured out. I say these are the things that work for me. When the thing was going well, and when my relationship today with my girlfriend is going well, here's why. And when we struggle, or the reasons I've struggled in the past, it's because of this. So you can still talk about and be adequately qualified to discuss these crucial topics, even though you failed at them, as long as you're transparent, as long as you're honest, and you're not putting yourself on a pedestal you don't belong. And I've done that, to be honest, but I try not to do that.
I think you do jujitsu, and I do too as well now. And
Awesome.
I think it's your instructor. Has he ever tapped?
My instructor, yeah,
Of
thousands
course.
and thousands and thousands, not to me, but thousands and thousands of times.
Right. Right. But that's the thing. Would you want to learn from someone who's never been beaten?
Right. Of course not.
No, because like the person who's been beaten has learned, well, what happened in that situation where I got tapped or where I got caught, right? Because he's going to be able to point that bear trap out to me because of that experience. So, I
Right.
mean, it's for people who are, giving anybody crap of like, well, you're not, you have no business talking about relationships. Well, it's like, well, then a guy who has a black belt in jujitsu has no business teaching anybody because he's been tapped once or twice or thousands
Right.
of times, right? Which is not the case.
Well,
But
I would
yeah,
add one caveat to that though, Larry. I would say I probably wouldn't take advice to somebody who's been beaten and didn't get back into the fight
right. Yeah.
because it's easy to get beaten. Anybody and everyone can get beaten at any given time, but unless you're learning from it and improving and getting better, that's probably somebody I don't want to take advice from.
Oh
But
yeah.
if somebody gets banged up and beat up, they go through a bankruptcy or, lose a child or the breakdown in a marriage or a lawsuit and they keep fighting, that's a person I'm interested in learning from because I don't want to fall into that pitfall they did. And I'm very susceptible to it. That's the thing I don't think a lot of guys realize. And you said it earlier, all the guys who mocked and ridiculed me when I went through my divorce are just as susceptible. In fact, several of them have already gone through their own divorces after they mocked me for going through it. So don't be so arrogant to think that your day isn't coming. It is. And I remember thinking before all of this went down that everything was going so good. And I had a little bit of low level fear, like, what's going to happen? And I had no idea it would be this. But I always was a little bit on the edge of my seat because things seemed to be going so well. So I would just give that little warning that, guys, if you feel like everything in your life is firing on all cylinders, you better wake up and figure out what warnings you're not looking at because they're there. I promise you they're there. And your arrogance is keeping you from seeing them. So be honest, surround yourself with good people who help you see those blind spots and look for them yourself because if you don't see them, you're going to get blindsided. Or alternatively, you can see them and start to make corrections now so you don't find yourself in my situation or a worse situation that you're in right now.
Yeah. And when you see them, do not ignore them and say, well, I'm in a good season. We're good. We're all
It's
right.
good. We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Yep.
I want to get to the men's forge here for a second, but I want to say one more thing to really hit this point home. I started following this guy on Instagram and he popped up on my feed as a suggestion. And now I just see his stuff all the time. I can't get enough of him. And that's because of his story. He goes by the handle, the sober bodybuilder, but his name's Brad Jensen. Have you ever heard of this guy?
Okay. No,
He is absolutely, well, first of all, anything health related, like, well, not anything, but there are some health influencers that I like to follow because I love their advice on certain topics. Brad is absolutely hysterical. And he is obviously a fitness guy, but he's been sober for 12 years and he's very outspoken about how horrific his addictions were to, I think he was like drugs and it was a ton of alcohol. And he pokes fun at himself about like how same thing. He's like, yeah, I can't just have one drink because then I'll want like 12 of them. And then it just turns into a disaster. And then I'm going to be like holding your mother up at gunpoint for her purse and just so I can go buy more drugs. Does that sound like a fun night to you? Like he's so damn funny, but that's like the guy, right? That he's been knocked down, has learned some serious lessons, but is still doing it, and he's turned it into a success. But I agree with you. I think that that is the biggest difference. Is yeah, you got to follow people that have been through the hell, but that they're on the other side of it, or they're working their way through it.
one of the biggest compliments I've received, and I think this is a good lesson for a lot of guys to hear, is when I came out with this news of what was going on in my life, I had a lot of people leave, and understandably so. I'm not blaming them or faulting them for doing that. I would have probably been in the same boat, so I'm not faulting them for that. But what is interesting is I get messages just about every week from people who say to me, "Hey man, when you came out with all of that stuff, I was disappointed. I was let down. I felt like you were being hypocritical or lying." And all of that has validity and merit to it. But I've seen how you've handled this over the past 2 years. And I haven't really engaged, but I've been watching. And I just want to tell you that I started listening to your podcast again, that I can see that you've changed, like you said earlier. And I just wanted to let you know, like, thank you for doing that because it gives me hope that I can do that when I face those things. And that sounds a little bit like I'm tooting on my own horn there, but I think the moral of the lesson of the story is people are watching you. And even in your failures and your setbacks, like your kids, for example, I think about that. My kids are intimately familiar, especially my two oldest boys, with all of my shortcomings. And I've been very transparent about everything with them too. And they've seen it and they had some real animosity and contention towards me. We were supposed to go last year to Africa together. My two boys didn't, they didn't want to go to Africa. I couldn't pay them to go to Africa to hunt with me 2 years ago. And this year, a year later, my oldest son and I went and we had an incredible time. But it's the power of just like we said earlier, being consistent and being honest. Because I would lie to them and they would know I would lie when I was lying to them. And my oldest is like, man, he's like, even when things aren't going good, I can see that you're being honest with us. He said that before. And he can see the growth. So people are watching you. Don't think that just because nobody's paying attention or nobody's being vocal about it, that they aren't watching to see what you'll do. And it's our job as men to be a beacon for other people. Even in failures, get back up, dust yourself off, and keep going. People are watching and they will be inspired by that.
I've never told you this, and now is as good a time as ever because we're on this public platform, but I'm just going to share this with you. You inspired the hell out of me for the past 2 years. I'm just being
Thank you,
real,
man.
and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I think when you're in this space like you and I are in, and we've created really successful organizations, um, you've got spotlights on the stage that you're on, and people are watching every move that you're making. And the people that are aligned with you, like so, like who have similar communities, when your life blew up, like I was just like, that could be me. That could be me tomorrow. Like right now, what is he gonna do? Like, and I watched, and I know we kept in contact and we talked here and there and that kind of thing, but I did watch. I was like, how is he going to, because I want to take notes here, because if this happens to me, how am I going to respond? Like, what am I going to do? And I constantly put myself in your position. And I was like, damn, I was like, look at what he's doing. Like, look at this, like the bravery, like the courage. Like, and I know you're a humble person, but the thing that like really, really I think allowed me to sit in the heat with you a little bit, right? Not with you, but see you like, wow, what is he going to do now? Is when you posted on Instagram the day that you went public with everything. And I saw some people that we both think highly of and even trust that just freaking threw rotten tomatoes at you. And I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit. And I remember making a comment on that post saying, like, I actually think more of you. Like, I actually think the fact that you are so upfront about this and this is everything, like, this has made me respect you more. I remember making that post and that comment. And I will tell you, Ryan, it has been insanely inspiring. I'm proud to call you a friend. I'm proud to call you, an additional man who does this similar work, because that could have beaten you and you didn't allow it to do that. And I got to be honest, man, like given the same situation, I've asked myself many times, would I have the courage to go on? Would I have the
You
courage to
would.
keep going? I think I would, but I'm like, damn, that's hard. Like I saw you go through some really hard stuff, but it was insanely inspiring to me. And I'm proud to be your friend, man.
It's good to know, man. I really appreciate that. I'm in such a better place than I was 2 years ago. And I think a large part of it is just I know what to do. I can go back and listen to myself or listen to my guests and say, just do that. What are you doing? You have access. You have access to people that not everybody has access to. You call these people friends and you hear from them and they're successful. Like, why aren't you doing those things? I can go back and listen to that. And then I have this entire support group of men. That was what was interesting is I thought I was creating this for these guys. I didn't know I was going to have to use it. It's like the old Rogaine commercials. You remember those? Not only am I a client, but I'm the
I'm
president or
the
whatever.
president.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's me. Like I'm the founder of Order of Man, but I'm a client of Order of Man too. Like I've received so much benefit from this. I didn't know I was creating it for the hardship I was going to face. And there's going to be other hardship. I'm not unaware of that as well. I'm 43 years old. So if I'm halfway through my life, I've gone through half of my hardships. That sucks to think about. but it helps me be a little bit more vigilant than I think I've been in the past.
Right. It keeps a more watchful eye out there.
Yeah.
So, but speaking
Yeah.
of watchful eye, let's tell these guys. I mean, I've been talking about it on the podcast. I know you have as well. But the four of us, I know me, you, Connor Beaton, Matt Bordeaux, we've combined our forces here, and we're hosting an event called the Men's Forge. I've been talking about it on my podcast, so the guys know my perspective of it. But I would love to know, what's Ryan Michler's perspective of this event.
I'm excited about it. I think it actually could revolutionize the way people do events.
I agree.
I'm so tired of the convention center style conference
God,
where
yes.
you go, you fly into, wherever you're going to fly into, big cities, right? And you get a hotel at the place, and then you go into this big convention center, and then you get lectured at for 3 days. That sounds miserable. I've done way too many of those, and it sounds miserable. So I think what we've put together, not I think, I know, what we've put together is an opportunity to learn from incredible men, credible, reputable guest VIPs, and guys are going to come in and teach us about some of these subjects. But we're going to do it in a way that men learn best. And Matt Boudreau is a big advocate for the way that we as human beings learn. Obviously, that's the space he's in. The public school model of just sitting down, shutting up, staying within the lines, regurgitating information, memorizing information does not work. It's proven not to work. But what does work is interactive learning, opportunities to connect, immersive experiences. And so we've combined this conference style scenario with the way that we as men actually learn, which is to play, to be physical, to compete, to get out and try new things that we normally wouldn't, to learn lessons through experiential learning. And I'm hesitant to say this, but it kind of is like Boy Scout camp for men. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
I
we're
know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
it's like we're going to bring these guys in and we're going to do some of these activities, and we keep those things pretty close to the chest, but we're going to do some of these activities with real purpose and intent in forging strong fathers, husbands, business owners, leaders in their communities, politicians, since we're on the back of the presidential election. That's what we want. And I think we can do it between us four better than anybody else can do it.
I agree. And the fact that we are actually doing this together, like, just excites like the hell out of me. I know we're
Oh,
just gonna like kill this thing. And the
I
guys are
I don't like where people like look, there's competition. I don't want to like sometimes you and I guess technically are competing over maybe the same audience members, I guess you could say. But I'm to the point now where if I want to grow this thing to the level that I think it could grow to, and I imagine you feel the same way, I'm not going to be able to do it alone. And we need you, we need Connor, we need Matt, we need other people involved in this to just take this to the next level. And that doesn't intimidate me. And I don't look at it as competition. It's collaboration. We're all working together. And it's not you plus me plus Matt plus Connor. It's a multiplying effect. It's exponential. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, it's funny when I announced this at the summit, I think we immediately had, it was like 10 or 15 guys right away buy tickets for it,
Yeah.
even though it was like 8, 9 months away. Um, and then I had a guy come up to me afterwards and he's like, "Hey man," he's like you and Connor and Matt and Ryan, like aren't you all competitors? I was like, maybe to some degree, but not when you have the same vision. When you
No,
have the same vision and the same goals, it's actually alignment and collaboration. It's not competitive. I was like, I got to be honest, man, this won't be the last event that we do together. In fact, I think people will experience this event and be like, when is the next one?
absolutely.
And I think this will, I literally think the Forge will become the epicenter of events for men out there, because exactly what you said, the experience is so different and it's going to be fun and it's going to be an environment like this last summit that we did. We were in a hotel room, even though, but we still get these guys in experiential learning environments. But I'm looking around at the hotel and I'm like, I am so done with these types of
Totally.
conferences. I want something fun, interactive, where you get dirty, we can just be dudes. Like, let's
Mm-hmm.
go. And that's
Yeah.
what this event's going to be about, man. So yeah, you want to share the logistics? Because
Yeah.
I
So if you
share
go
those. Yeah.
to, yeah, I can do that. So go to mensforge.com, and all the details are there. You can get registered. There's different packages that are available. You can see everything you need to see. But it's May 1st through the 4th, 2025, just outside of St. Louis. And what's cool about this, again, this is where it's a little bit unique. Another unique thing is when you go to a conference, you're paying for the conference, and that's it. So you show up, you get your own travel, you get there, you go, you get your hotel, you got to pay for your lunch and your breakfast and your dinner and all, like, you pay for all of that. But with this, we decided we don't want to jerk people around. So you get to our ranch just outside of St. Louis. Once you're there, everything is covered. All the activities, all of the experiences, all of the lessons, all of the speakers, all of your food for the entire weekend is covered. All of your lodging for the entire weekend is covered. All you have to do is get there, and we'll take care of everything else and create an experience for you that you'll take into your life, which is what we want. So again, it's May 1st through the 4th, 2025, just outside of St. Louis. And the link is themensforge.com.
Yeah, yeah. Make sure you guys grab tickets. These tickets will go fast, and we will absolutely sell out, no doubt about it. In fact, I think half our VIP is already gone, correct?
I think it's more. I think it's like 80%.
Holy crap. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Those
guys,
quick.
go get them fast. And I'm not kidding. I know it's the 1st of December as this show releases, but this thing's only 6 months away, and this thing will probably sell out easily in the first quarter of next year. Easily.
Oh, for sure.
So,
yeah, for sure.
If not by the end of the year. So yeah, you guys can also go to this particular landing page, which is the dadedge.com/503. We'll have all of Ryan's social media handles in there, everything for Order of Man, Iron Council, as well as the mensforge.com, where you can buy tickets for that. But Ryan, dude, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate the alignment. And dude, I'm really excited about collaborating. I remember early on, I mean, like, I'm talking like the first 1 or 2 years, like the Alliance and the Iron Council was around. I was like, God bless, it's so competitive. It's so competitive. and it's like, but now it's like this friendship we have. And especially now, I don't know if it's maybe even the season of life that I'm in or you're in. I don't want to speak for you, but for me, I'm just like, hell yeah, man. Let's blow this thing up. And like, let's get as many dudes to grow and change and implement some of these things as possible. Because that's how we're going to make the world. I mean, like, this past election year scared the shit out of me where our world was headed.
It was crazy.
We need good men who have a good head on their shoulders, a good heart in their chest, and know what to do. And I think we provide that.
Well, I mean, a lot of guys are like, where do we want to improve? We want to change culture. Where do we start? You start here.
Yeah, here.
That's what we're doing. You might join 100 guys or 200 guys or 1,000 guys or 10,000 guys. And eventually, what we're talking about, you guys listen to this podcast in 10 years, or the podcast we do 10 years from now, or whatever it is then. It might be like little 3D pods that you just pop up in your house and you can just see us right there like you're actually there. But whatever it is in 10 years, I promise you, if you go back and listen to this one, it's going to be amazing. The amount of people that are enlisted in movements like this, the amount of men who want to take back culture. And I'm pretty excited. We're the tip of the spear.
I agree. And it was so crazy, man, is when you said, if you listen to this podcast 10 years from now, do you realize that it was in 2015? You and I did we were on each other's podcast that year, but we did a special one that released actually on this day, which you and I are recording on this day, on Veterans Day. We did a special edition on Dad Edge podcast, which was Good Dad Project. So we literally did one 9 years ago on the day, which is crazy. So it's like if you listen to this show 10 years from now, but there's actually a podcast out there that was 9 years from today.
We'll just make this every 10 years. We'll just schedule it out for the next 40 years. And then at that point, we'll be dead and it won't matter. Hopefully we did enough at that point.
We'll have our canes, our walkers, and our pissing and our depends as we're on these microphones.
Exactly. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the opportunity.
You bet, brother. Talk soon.